Welcome back with another banger. It's the React Files. Hope you're having a good night. Let's get straight to it.
China has just had to urgently evacuate over 400,000 people after they were hit by one of the most powerful super typhoons in over a decade. And for perspective, a super typhoon is equivalent to that of a Category 5 hurricane. All schools in the area that it made landfall were shut, trains, boats, and flights were suspended, and all tourist attractions have been closed down. The winds near its center reached a staggering 145 miles per hour. And this typhoon has doubled in strength after it killed more than 16 people in the Philippines last week. It's now predicted to move along and hit Vietnam this weekend.
Bro, I think that was one of the most terrifying situations I've seen in a long time. Being in an apartment in a high-story building and the windows rip off the building while you're standing there. Bro, that's insane. Shout out to Dylan Page. Now this one has some shock value.
Have you ever talked about something and then got an ad for it on your phone right after? It's the weirdest feeling, and a company just admitted to doing this. So Cox Media Group was pitching to investors their active listening software, saying that AI is using what they call real-time intent data by listening to our conversations, saying advertisers can use this and that we leave a data trail based on our conversations and online behavior. Companies have spoke up about this, Google saying they removed CMG from its partners program, Meta is saying that they're reviewing this company to see if it violates any terms of service and that they do not use our microphone for ads. Amazon has said it has never worked with CMG and has no plans to do so.
So the question is, what companies did use this marketing firm's technology? These days, it happens all the time. Talk about something and there it go. Either in my ads or just pops up on my phone. At least they admitted to it. It's not just crazy speculation anymore.
Evacuate! Evacuate the state of California right now. Survive San Andreas. Y'all don't want to be here when that earthquake hit. We're talking all the celebrities gone in one day. We're talking all the gangbangers gone in one day. Evacuate the state of California. Survive San Andreas. Evacuate! Evacuate the state of California. Survive San Andreas. Thank you, Father, for showing me the vision so I come save your children. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Evacuate the state of California. Thank you, Yahweh. Yahusha. Evacuate the state of California.
So this is California, and this is crazy because what we have been talking about lately, especially since April 8th of this year, you know, with this massive cosmological event, you know, we have a lot of pressure changes in the earth. Just like in 1800, we had that massive earthquake in 1811 and 1812. And of course, that happened after a total solar eclipse. Now, lately, for a little while, this guy right here, we've had this guy telling everybody to evacuate California for about a month or two. If you look at his TikTok, that's all it is. He has shirts that literally say, evacuate California.
Evacuate! Evacuate the state of California right now. Survive San Andreas. Y'all don't want to be here when that earthquake hit.
He said he had a vision where all of California came underwater after huge earthquakes. Could he really be this crazy, or is he telling you something that he himself saw? Not to mention a living Nostradamus and the other Nostradamus' predictions. And yes, we had known that this was going to happen at some point, but this article right here actually suggests it'll happen by 2032. But don't forget about the Google image search for each year. 2028 seems to be almost the last year, with a giant asteroid coming in 2029. As 2030 search seems to be a whole new world. But a lot of people are calling for this earthquake sooner rather than later. San Andreas may be getting ready for an earthquake, they say. Studies suggest it's prime, but a Dr. Lucy Jones disagrees. Whose side are you on, Lucy? And it was such a big thing in his life, that vision, that he literally devoted all of his time and life to warning people. I don't know. We'll see.
That is crazy though, how the ground is cracking up all over the place. I thought it was just a small part, but now it looks like it's beginning to spread.
September 17th is the day the barge hits the bridge support. If you ain't seen this movie yet, they show us a lunar eclipse, followed several days later by a solar eclipse. That lunar eclipse is coming up on September 17th. That solar eclipse is on October 2nd. Now, I made a total ass of myself telling everybody that that solar eclipse on April 8th was potentially setting something up for a lunar eclipse to knock down within the next 3 to 6 months from that time. I told y'all that the solar and the lunar eclipses are responsible for the plate tectonics on the Earth largely because of a process known to scientists as the elastic deformation of the Earth's crust. I said it's not as though just because we have a solar eclipse we're about to have a big earthquake, but that the concentrated gravity of the moon being in line with the sun and the elastic deformation on the Earth's crust being greater at that time. And with the history of an earthquake following a solar eclipse by 3 months in the New Madrid Fault Zone, a devastating earthquake that followed the eclipse that went over Anchorage, Alaska. There was a lunar eclipse right before that tsunami killed 200,000 people down in Thailand. Sorry, I had to think about that. Correlation does not equal causation, but the sun and the moon do directly influence plate tectonics, along with the electromagnetic activity of storms, and also solar storms. The sun is approaching solar maximum. Increased electromagnetic activity constantly bombarding the Earth now, which is known to increase the intensity of storms, and also earthquakes, electromagnetism, and gravity working together for plate tectonics. You think all that water following the moon and the tides just doesn't affect the ground underneath it? It does. This is a constant process, plate tectonics. Solar cycles, solar eclipses, lunar eclipses. During lunar eclipses, the sun and the moon are pulling opposite each other. During solar eclipses, they're pulling in the same direction. In both cases, the deformation of the Earth's crust is always greater than when it's not happening. But on a regular schedule, the moon gets between the Earth and the sun, blocks out its light. On that same schedule, the Earth gets between the sun and the moon and blocks out the moon's light. Anyway, the lunar eclipse in this movie is on September 17th because they put the date right on the dash of like the spaceship or whatever it is on the moon in that scene. And there is indeed a lunar eclipse coming up on September 17th, followed by that solar eclipse on October 7th. It's an annular eclipse, meaning a ring of fire, which means the moon is going to be closer to the Earth than in times of total solar eclipse, where the moon is further from the Earth. Anyway, I said that eclipse that went over the New Madrid Fault Zone on April 8th was no good. And I talked specifically about earthquakes and flooding. Now, since then there's been plenty of flooding. Yeah, that happens on a schedule because so do plate tectonics and solar and lunar eclipses. It's all on a schedule. That's the point. You ever heard of the Bronze Age collapse? That's the point I'm making. It's on a schedule, yes. Okay, yeah, these things do recur. Yep. Both on the same page there. Can we move on now? Devastating tsunamis that kill 200,000 people in one go recur. These are just natural occurrences, right? Yes, we agree. Devastating earthquakes like the one that sank the New Madrid Fault Zone, tore Anchorage all to pieces. Yep, those are recurring natural events. That's the point that I'm trying to make here. Okay? You don't get one over on me by saying that. That's my point. Anyway, the earthquake activity did increase in volume, scale, if not number. We got to talk about more earthquakes. We got to talk about how strong the ever-happening regular ones get. Okay, and Japan has just put out a warning for a super mega quake, all right? If you understand the plate tectonics on the west coast of Japan there, you'll understand that they are absolutely fixing to get some real hard times. And they know it, that it's not a matter of if, but only a matter of when, because those subduction zones there are real, whoa. All right, the New Madrid Fault, they just ran a bunch of federal drills in St. Louis expecting an 8.4 or greater there. Y'all think I'm making this up? Why are they doing all that? Why did Japan say that? Why did St. Louis run that big federal drill? They called the Michigan National Guard down because the Gulf of Mexico has the potential of reaching from all the way up to the Great Lakes there. LA is bracing for a mega quake. Not if, but when. The Cascadian subduction zone north of California there does have the potential to drop the Cascadian Mountains into the ocean. Not that the ocean water should rise above the Cascade, but that they should fall into the ocean there. A real possibility. part of California can fall off into the ocean there. It can. Because the plate runs like right over the land, the divide between the Pacific plate and the North American plate. Part of California can go right under the water, don't worry about it. You think Maynard was making it up when he said learn to swim, see you down in Arizona Bay? Look, this has all been known about for a long time. I'm not making any of this stuff up, I'm just saying, hey, guess what? That April 8th solar eclipse did not look good. Running over the New Madrid fault zone there, the path that it took was rather ouchy if you know plate tectonics to any degree. That lunar eclipse on September 17th, I'm not saying it will be the end of the world in any way for anyone, but it is a barge that hits a bridge support. And I use that phrase because that's how solar and lunar eclipses make earthquakes. It's almost kind of like, you know, the sun sets it up, the moon knocks it down, if you will. It's just a total coincidence that a bunch of barges kept hitting a bunch of bridge supports after I said that. What? Like, I mean, that is weird. It's weird that they should say that lunar eclipse. Look, that annular eclipse that's going to happen over the southern Pacific on October 2nd is bad news for Japan in a big way. Bad news for Japan. I'm telling you this. Not to say it will cause the super mega earthquake, but like if that thing's gonna happen, something just like that's gonna be what kicks it off. Because it's the sun and the moon making the plate tectonics with tides and elastic deformation of the earth. In conjunction with the electromagnetic activity of storms, super big ones especially, having some of those real recently roll right over top of the New Madrid fault zone, people, heads up. And the sun, which is approaching solar maximum, kicking a whole bunch of geomagnetic storms our way, currently, right now. With our powers combined, look, are the earthquakes always devastating? No. But do all the conditions always line up the same way that the sun is approaching solar maximum? No. That's on an 11-year cycle. Is California about to fall into the ocean? About to? It's not if, it's when. All the experts say. Is the New Madrid fault zone about to pop off? I can't say when that'll happen, but everybody agrees that it's gonna. I mean, maybe not everybody, but like largely, they're planning for it, preparing for it at least. Is Japan gonna get that megaquake anytime soon? I have no idea. But do these conditions present reason for preparedness? Yep. Otherwise, like, what conditions would? It's like that scene where Maverick won't engage the enemy after losing Goose, you know. Take the shot, man! Take the shot! Doesn't look good. Doesn't get to look any better than that. Take the shot, man. Worry yourselves to death about something? No. Be aware of the potential? Yes. Let me say this again. Japan, New Madrid, California, it's not if, it is when. By all indications, the experts say. Your authorities that you love so much are saying themselves. Sure, I got mocked and scorned to saying it before they did. Are you mocking them to scorn now for saying what I just told y'all repeatedly? That they are now also telling you themselves. Am I making this up? Are they? How did I know that they needed to prepare on the New Madrid fault zone for an 8-point? I'm not the only one saying this for years, by a long shot. And when I say not if, but when, here is the potential for not if, but when. I want to make it clear. The ocean water does not have to rise for a lot of this water to come in here. The land has to fall. That's a subduction zone. That's exactly the potential there, is that the land flattens out and those mountains aren't mountains anymore. They're in the ocean now. Loses elevation, lets the water in. Same kind of deal happening here, man. The ocean water doesn't have to rise for this to take place. The land has to drop right there, which it definitely has the potential to do. That's how Neatfoot Lake was created the first time that New Madrid fault zone popped off in 1811. I hope September 17th comes and goes. I hope October 2nd comes and goes. I hope there are no devastating earthquakes and I can just look stupid. But there's enough going on here for Japan to risk saying something about it to the Japanese. For St. Louis to say something about it to everybody in the New Madrid fault zone there. LA is definitely talking about it. The scientists are sweating that superheated lubricating fluid pushing up through the ocean floor there in the Cascadian subduction zone. That's why those 10 billion crabs or however many crabs there were that couldn't be found. They were hiding in caves because the water's too hot. Because the subduction zone is getting too close and stuck, forcing all the lubricating fluid out, which shows the potential for a catastrophic slip. And that's just what the authorities are saying about all this here. It's just that I told you a couple months early. October 2nd is right at the end of that 6-month window I gave. Heads up to you and yours.
Shout out to Dead Hidden. Yo, I absolutely hope he's wrong. He definitely know his ish when it comes to the lunar cycles and the solar cycles as well. But he admits he was wrong. Guess we gotta keep our eye out for it.
If you knew about this, you would not look at it the same ever again. I have to say that this is a theory for obvious reasons, but there is a select group of individuals that have been chosen to survive society in the event of nuclear war, natural disaster, or extraterrestrial invasion. It is called the Adam and Eve Project, a contingency operation developed by the CIA to restart civilization. These fall into the category of government plans called continuity of government, and they have been part of the United States national security policy since the Cold War. But it gets even wilder. The plan is to usher this group into safe locations such as nuclear bunkers that are scattered across the world. It is said that these locations contain human knowledge, forbidden and common, about how to restart society. Many of these locations are filled with ancient artifacts from historical civilizations.
The Amazon is not an untouched wilderness, but was once home to a monumental ancient civilization, one which has been completely missing from the history books. What we're now learning about this lost civilization is not only totally changing our understanding of human history, but perhaps has the power to change the future of humanity as we know it. Settle in. In this video, we'll show you exactly what archaeologists have discovered and what it means for the human race. The story begins with a man named Francisco de Orellana. Born in 1511 into a wealthy and influential Spanish family, Orellana obtained a position as a conquistador in the New World of Central and South America in 1527, where he would pursue fame and fortune for more than a decade. In 1540, Orellana decided to join a dangerous expedition which would head inland from Peru in an attempt to find the rich civilizations that conquistadors believed existed at the heart of the South American continent. The expedition set out in February of 1541, and to say that it did not go well would be an understatement. Across the perilous Andes Mountains and down into oppressive jungle, for months, the expedition traveled without ever coming across any signs of large-scale civilization. By December, the expedition's leader was desperate, his party starving and ill, so Orellana was sent ahead with a group of 50 men to scout the terrain along the Coca River and look for food. When, a few days downriver, they came upon a friendly tribe camped where the Coca met the Napo River. Orellana was eager to head back and inform the main group, but the other members of his party insisted that a return upriver would be too difficult and threatened to mutiny if they did not continue on. With no other choice, Orellana agreed. His party followed the Napo River until, in early February of 1542, it emptied into a much larger river, a powerful body of water which would become known as the Amazon River. For months, they traveled down the mighty Amazon, with the astonishing sights they came across recorded by a Dominican friar named Gaspar de Carvajal. In his records, Carvajal described huge settlements stretching for miles along the river, including one, in his words, that stretched for 5 leagues, 12.5 to 20 miles, without there intervening any space from house to house. Running between these settlements and extending inland were fine highways, so enormous that Orellana and his party were afraid to follow them. Particularly notable were the astounding foodstuffs these settlements enjoyed, an abundance of meats, partridges, turkeys, and fish of many sorts, as well as pineapples and avocados and plums and custard apples and other kinds of fruit, and even very good wine resembling beer. Finally, more than 6 months after they had reached the Amazon River and a year and a half since they'd set out from Peru, Orellana and his party exited the eastern mouth of the Amazon and sailed into the Atlantic Ocean. Returning to Europe, the incredible stories Orellana told about his journey immediately made him an important figure, and in 1544 he was appointed governor of the new territory, receiving a commission to conquer and settle the lands. Unfortunately for Orellana, the return trip was a disaster, and despite months spent wandering up and down the Brazilian coast, he was unable to find the mouth of the Amazon again. With his hope lost, he died in 1546, never having returned to the great river. Somewhat surprisingly, after Orellana's death, no major expeditions to the Amazon River were organized for some time. It was not until the late 1600s that Jesuit missionaries began to push into the area and establish settlements. As they did not find the civilization which Orellana had spoken about. No large populations, no houses stretching for miles, no massive highways cutting through the terrain. There was only jungle and small, sparse groups of indigenous tribes. In short order, a consensus arose that Orellana must have been a liar. The Amazon he described nothing more than a counterfeit paradise. This consensus was only strengthened in the 20th century when scientists began to note that the soil of the Amazon rainforest was infertile and totally unable to support large-scale agriculture. In other words, the large populations and incredible foodstuffs Orellana described simply could not have existed. And so, the opinion was solidified. The Amazon was truly an unexplored and undisturbed wilderness. Until recent years, when everything changed. In late 1992, an American anthropologist named Michael Heckenberger decided on a whim to take a little vacation in the Mato Grosso region of the Amazon River Basin in Brazil. Though he was an anthropologist, he did not intend to look for anything dramatic on this particular trip, but simply wanted to spend some quality time with the indigenous tribes in the area. By January of 1993, he had settled in with one such tribe, the Quicuro, where, recognizing Heckenberger as a man of learning, the chief of the tribe quickly told him there was a site which he needed to see. With nothing better to do, Heckenberger followed the chief to the site, where he was shown a massive ditch, some 6 to 10 feet deep and more than 30 feet wide, which ran for over a mile. Beginning to haphazardly poke around in the soil, Heckenberger suddenly realized it was filled with small shards of pottery. Where had this pottery come from, he wondered. Unable to resist, Heckenberger decided to cancel the rest of his vacation and launch an official investigation into the site.
Been lost here in the underground city of Derinkuyu, a multi-10,000-year-old underground city in my personal opinion, but we know they say at least 5,000. Here you can see a gigantic stone roller. Now, they would actually roll this across to seal off the other side to prevent attacks. Attacks from who? Potentially the Romans or any other threat. But they had multiple of these at different stages throughout the entire underground city. And so when the threat was over, they would roll it back. When there was another threat, they would roll it forward. This gigantic stone was about 600 kilos. How in the world did they even get this down here? But what's incredible is that they had it set up so in stages, if one of these stone doors were penetrated, they can roll another one and retreat deeper into the city. They can even escape through other tunnels that connect to other underground cities. The people who engineered this underground city had advanced knowledge and a blueprint to build this because they knew it was going to be successful.
Bro, you can't tell me that's not amazing. A first-hand glimpse of what it looks like for an underground city. This is getting deep. Good thing for cell phones and cameras. You can actually get good, clear footage. That's amazing.
The inhabitants of these settlements had built using mud brick and wood instead of stone, which was not readily available in the area. This meant that it deteriorated quickly in a tropical climate and was lost beneath the earth. Nobody had noticed because there wasn't much to notice. Indeed, without the direction of the local chief, Heckenberger himself may never have started his work. It was an astonishing find, showing that there were once more people in the region than had long been believed. But in fact, it was only the beginning. At the same time as Heckenberger was working, something else was taking place that further unraveled the growing mystery. In 1999, a Brazilian paleontologist named Alceu Ranzi was flying over the state of Acre in Brazil, some 1,000 miles to the west of Mato Grosso, when he noticed on the ground below huge earthworks seemingly carved into the terrain. Somewhere in his mind, Ranzi was already aware of the existence of these earthworks. Back in the 1970s, when Ranzi was little more than a fresh-faced geography student, he had been part of a team under researcher Ondemar Dias, which conducted a full archaeological survey of the Acre area. At the time, the Amazon rainforest was just beginning to be clear-cut for farming, and as the landscape beneath the jungle was revealed, Dias and his team recorded the existence of huge shapes and patterns in the earth. Though these earthworks were mysterious and intriguing, the findings garnered little attention. In fact, the National Program of Archaeological Research in Brazil, which had commissioned the project, didn't even announce the discovery for 11 years. But by 1999, Ranzi had become a respected scientist in his own right, and being reminded of the earthworks out the window of his plane rekindled his interest in the sites. He decided that he had to study them and find out what they were and where they had come from. Within a year, he had discovered dozens of earthworks throughout the region, circles and diamonds, hexagons and interlocking rectangles, and more, each between about 300 and 1,000 feet in diameter and outlined by trenches up to 20 feet deep. Many were even approached by broad earthen avenues 165 feet wide and half a mile long. It was clear to Ramsey that these earthworks, which he and others took to calling geoglyphs, had been constructed on a large scale by humans sometime deep in the past. But who and when? The question brought researchers from around the world to Acre to begin an intensive study. By 2010, they were finally ready to publish a report on their work. According to the report, which appeared in Antiquity Journal, researchers had discovered more than 200 geoglyphs stretching across 150 miles, from Bolivia in the south through Acre to the Amazonas state in the north. Incredibly, these geoglyphs were connected by long straight roads, giving the landscape the appearance of a geometric grid diagrammed in the earth. Researchers dated the geoglyphs from as late as 1283 CE and as early as 200 CE. In either case, long before the arrival of Europeans on the continent. Again, this showed that the long-standing consensus asserting the Amazon had never been home to significant populations of people was wrong. In fact, researchers used the expanse of the geoglyphs to estimate that the area's population may have been as high as 60,000 people. Incredible as this was, researchers insisted that they'd only begun to scratch the surface. Indeed, one of the lead researchers contended in interviews that they had found only 10% of what is actually there, while another told National Geographic that there's a lot more to discover in these places. It's never ending. Every week we find new structures. As predicted, after 2010, researchers did continue to find more and more geoglyphs across the area. By 2015, they'd noted 306 geoglyphs in Acre, and by 2017, the number was nearing 500. And then the game changed. By the late 2010s, a new technology had emerged, which was totally revolutionizing archaeology. It was called Light Detection and Ranging, or LiDAR for short. Simply, LiDAR fires down a grid of infrared laser beams hundreds of thousands per second from an aircraft at the ground below. As these beams bounce off the Earth's surface, they create data points from which the terrain can be digitally mapped, instantly revealing the Earth's surface and its archaeological features. Nowhere was LiDAR more important to archaeologists than the Amazon, where dense jungle makes it nearly impossible to see anything from the air, and exceedingly difficult to traverse on foot. With LiDAR, researchers were able to, in effect, digitally deforest the Amazon, allowing them to explore huge areas that would have taken years to examine using traditional methods in a matter of days, or even minutes. Suddenly, LiDAR meant that what was truly hidden in the Amazon was revealed for the world to see. The first major breakthrough came in 2018 in Brazil's Mato Grosso region, where Michael Heckenberger had become a legend for his work on the ground in the decades prior. There, researchers using LiDAR were able to uncover 81 geoglyphs near the border between Bolivia and Brazil, and, choosing the 24 most intriguing sites, begin to excavate. When they did, they uncovered a complicated series of interconnected road networks and farms, stretching between large fortified villages built on mounds. These villages contained causeways and large plazas, and when researchers dug into the ground, they found pottery remains and burial sites. On the surface, the work in 2018 was not totally unlike that which Michael Heckenberger had already done, if over a much larger area and in much less time. However, there was one characteristic that made it different and truly groundbreaking. The sites that they had found were far from major rivers where people were thought to have been concentrated. This meant that an ancient civilization, rather than existing solely along riverbanks, had actually been a continuous string of settlements throughout the area and deep into the jungle.
The game changer that unraveled the whole clue to the Amazon. That's pretty dope how far technology has come. They could do this with the Amazon. Imagine what they can do with the moon.
This has been hidden from you on purpose. Did you know that the Great Wall of China is 13,171 miles long? And it is always downplayed throughout history. To put that in perspective, from the east to the west coast of America, it is on average 3,000 miles. Yet you have to times that by 4, then add another 1,000 miles, and you're still not at that number. This leaves you to wonder, how did they build such a wall, and why? I mean, did you even know that China was that big? They started to build the wall before Jesus had even walked the earth. No ruler with a sane mind would dedicate so much time and resources to building something with no purpose. This is where it takes a turn. The ruler that ordered it to be built knew it would take over 1,000 years. Who were they defending against that they needed all 13,000 miles to even have a chance at winning? What or who were they so scared of? Numerous reports, maps, and old photos suggest that the wall was built by the Tartarian Empire. If you look at old photos, the steep side of the Great Wall and even the lookout posts are actually facing China, meaning that it was not built by China. It was in fact to keep whatever was in China.
Forward heat shield and drugs out. Really interesting view of this coming down from in the vicinity of the landing site. Again, this is a view from a little lower than the WB-57 we were seeing. Recovery teams report that they heard the booms as those came out. 3 good mains fully open there. Touchdown.
You need to just put on a show. You know? For almost 4 years, champs, the public demanded to hear from the doc regarding the Twitch suspension. I guess since you all missed the point with my personal statement, maybe it's time to tell my side of the story. Huh, champs? You see, there was a lawsuit pending, and as part of that arbitration, all parties were not allowed to speak publicly about the case. I respected those rules. My lawsuit against Twitch was eventually resolved, as you all know. But even then, as part of the settlement, all parties were still prohibited from speaking publicly about the case or the settlement. However, if one side violated that confidentiality, then the other side could respond. And again, champs, again, I respected all the confidential obligations. But apparently Twitch's own disgruntled employees didn't feel the need to abide by those same obligations. Cody Connors, ex-Twitch employee, wasn't even involved, leaks Twitch's reported reason. Years later, Cody, why do this? What was the point? This was settled professionally. And you, knowing how black and white the internet is, you decided, you fucking rat, to leak the reported reason Twitch banned me in 2020. I mean, for what? Cody? Why? Did you not know the repercussions from spewing lies about the 2-time? Did you not know the repercussions of accusing me, Cody Connors? You see, you don't know shit, and it was obvious from your tweet. You didn't have any first-hand knowledge of my dispute with Twitch. You said that I got banned from Twitch because I was sexting a minor through Whisper's messages? Do you even know what the legal definition of sexting is? I do. And yeah, I used Twitch's Whispers, but trust me, I wasn't sexting anyone. You also said the word minor, Cody. I even made sure that word was emphasized in my statement, edited, etc., just to make sure these so-called journalists would pick up on it. And boy, oh boy, did they ever, champs. When you and all these so-called journalists, Cody, fired off your tweets, did any of you consider that the Twitch user may have been over the legal age of consent at the time of the messages? You didn't. Neither did any of these journalists, and neither did Twitch at the time of the ban. You also tried to tell the world that I was trying to meet up with this user at TwitchCon, but you're wrong. Let's set the record straight. I never intended to meet this user ever. We never made plans to meet at TwitchCon or anywhere else, and in fact, we never met in person ever. Your bullshit accusations gave false courage to other former Twitch employees to make shit up as well. I suspect all of you sort of planned and coordinated this attack. These big-time publications, these journalists, these various outlets are sort of just gossip channels now, don't you think, champs? They act like they're just gossip channels now, without any real journalism and real research happening. They report on all this based on leaks from 2 former Twitch employees, one of whom was supposedly on the trust and safety team. If these anonymous sources worked on the trust and safety team at the time of my Twitch suspension in 2020, then you would hope they would tell the truth. But apparently that's just too much to ask. If these former trust and safety team members, and by the way, I know exactly who they are, actually had firsthand knowledge, then what they conveniently left out is, 1, Twitch's trust and safety team, the same employees that decided to ban me, internally admitted that the whisper messages were not sexting. And 2, Twitch's trust and safety team, the same employees that decided to ban me, internally acknowledged that the whispers did not constitute child sexual abuse material CSAM. I'll say it again. Neither I nor the Twitch user exchanged any sexual graphic messages or images. Cody Connors and these other anonymous sources are trying to paint a picture that I was exchanging sexually explicit messages and photos with this Twitch user. That never happened. I even used the word inappropriate, purposely. And look at how it's defined by everyone, champs. Huh? Including these defaming articles. I'm sorry, but mutual bantering with inappropriate jokes taken out of context should have never led to me getting banned from Twitch in the first place. I mean, how would each of you look if all of your private DMs, your text messages, your chats were looked at, dissected, and taken out of context by someone who's deliberately trying to find something inappropriate in those words? And this is not a situation where a victim publicly accuses someone of wrongdoing. That never happened here. We're talking about allegations that Twitch made against me as a half-baked reason for justifying their actions of suspending and shutting down my channel. Allegations that Twitch made without even a legal analysis of whether the whisper messages were legal. You see, I engage with my community. I engage with other streamers. And through Twitch Whispers, I communicate with Twitch users. Conversations that consisted of a variety of playing games and gaming politics, content creation, random stuff. This was the extent of my whispers with this Twitch user. On June 21st, 2020, my ex-Twitch partner manager learns that I exchanged whispers with the Twitch user. And I say ex-partner manager because for years, this guy didn't do anything for me, my community, or my channel. For years. I'm talking no front page love. You're talking about the face of the platform, right? Literally. The face of the platform. And I know Champions Club remembers this. We got zero front page love on the website. It was never on my channel. He didn't follow me on Twitter. He wouldn't even inform us about Twitch rival tournaments. We're talking about the 2-time Twitch rival tournament. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you want to play in it? We got zero support from this guy. And it was just so obvious that he carried a grudge against the 2-time. So after we signed with Twitch in 2019, we asked for a new partner manager. And just a few months later, that ex-Twitch partner manager is directly involved with getting me banned. Coincidence? The Twitch user tells the ex-Twitch partner manager that they do not want to report anything to Twitch. I'll repeat that sentence one more time just in case anybody missed that one. The Twitch user tells this ex-Twitch partner manager that they do not want to report anything to Twitch. But this ex-Twitch partner manager encourages the user and even directs them to file a report directly with Twitch, even though the user told him clearly that we never physically met anywhere and that no photographs were exchanged. On June 24th, 2020, Twitch's Special Operations Team receives and reviews the user's report. They find no issues and determine that it did not warrant any further escalation to Twitch's law enforcement response team. That would have been the end. That should have been the end. But that partner manager, oh boy, did he had it out. He had it out for the 2-time. He finds out that no further action will be taken, so what does he do? He personally escalates the report to a friend on the Twitch's LER team. The LER team, remember, that's the Twitch's law enforcement response team. He escalates the report to a friend on Twitch's LER team. So a day later, on June 25th, the LER analyst pulls the entirety of the whisper messages and begins discussing them with his director of the LER team. Mind you, this director is on vacation at that time and does not have access to their computer or work files. Let me just remind you, I went through a multi-year, a big-time arbitration, okay? And, you discover a lot of stuff. Mind you, this director is on vacation at that time. The LER analyst cherry picks and sends a few targeted excerpts out of context from the whisper messages to this director. Now, if you do this, you can make anyone's messages look inappropriate, even when they aren't. Within less than 1 hour, this LER analyst and his director have made the decision to suspend me from Twitch. Twitch submits a report to NCMEC. You guys all read those little articles, huh? The NCMEC. Twitch submits that report. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Guess what? As far as I know, and over 4 years have passed, they didn't do anything with the report. As far as I know, they didn't escalate Twitch's report to law enforcement. Mind you, the same people that made this decision admit internally that the messages did not constitute sexting. The same people that made this decision at Twitch admit internally that the messages did not warrant any child sexual abuse material charge. Twitch makes this decision to terminate my contract and ban me while admitted they did not perform any legal analysis of whether the messages exchanged were illegal in any way. Twitch makes this decision to terminate my contract and ban me while admitting that they never investigated the age of consent in the jurisdiction where the user's messages were sent and received. Twitch makes this decision to terminate my contract and ban me without ever interviewing me, the user, or any other third party, including the partner manager. It's fucking unbelievable! I'm not going to get into every detail regarding my legal case, but these former Twitch employees that claim to have firsthand knowledge, they just don't have a clue. They didn't report any facts. The judge in the case determined that the whispers were not illegal. So then why did Twitch use these messages against me? Why did Twitch treat the doc so differently from their other streamers? I mean, outside of the obvious. I mean, just take a look at me. Unfiltered. The realest motherfucker in this industry. 6'8", gorgeous, athletic, successful, college degree, college athlete, bourbon business, gaming studio, beautiful family. And trust me, we've worked hard for over a decade to improve as a person, a husband, and father, and to get where we're at today. I mean, I'm in such a good place today. And all these people, they all act like they're just so perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. Sometimes I do. But I also didn't do all the shit that they're saying I did. But then that doesn't make a story, right? They wanted media attention. The media wants controversy. And by sensationalizing all of this with big, inaccurate headlines like sexting and sexually explicit, you all got what you wanted at the expense of the tube time. The reality is, they wanted to cut down the doc. Plain and simple. Take a look at some of these horrendous acts of Twitch streamers that were never banned. I've got some examples right here. Example number 1. a streamer that frequently used the N-word while publicly streaming, which constitutes a violation of Twitch's policies if accompanied by hateful intent. Twitch scheduled a meeting with the streamer to ascertain his intent to determine whether his conduct was a violation of Twitch's policies, ultimately determining it was not a breach of Twitch's policies. Why wasn't I called into a meeting? Why wasn't my intent taken into consideration, champs? Example number 2. Streamer was reported for discussing doing things with deceased animals and discussing pedophilia, all while live streaming. Never suspended, but instead given a multi-million-dollar contract. Example number 3. Streamer was reported for a sexually explicit stream involving children and telling children to send Snapchats of them playing with themselves. Never suspended, but instead, given a multi-million-dollar contract. It's so obvious that certain Twitch executives, employees involved had personal biases against the doc and used all of this as an opportunity to terminate my contract. Go back and look at the timing of all this too. The doc's termination lines up with 2 preferable, profitable, and expensive streamers leaving Mixer. As soon as Twitch knew that Mixer had failed, and go look at the timing, these other expensive streamers needed a new streaming platform. So Twitch rushed through its decision to terminate the 2-time. You see, I shouldn't even be banned from Twitch. It has affected us on so many levels. Back in 2020 and now in 2024. And Cody Connors, I just have to say it again. Why would you do this? Like I said, this was handled professionally years ago. No fucking wrongdoing. But because of you, Cody, we just lost. Fuck, man. Unfortunately, we have to lay off people from Midnight Society. Right? Because of you, Cody. You know, through all this, we are where we are. And like a fucking man, I'll accept it. What I don't accept is sitting quietly by and let these idiots attack me with false accusations. No. For all these doc haters out there too, oh man, the ones that project and project and project and project and worry about everyone else's problems, right? I can't understand that mindset. I could care less. We've always stayed in our lane. But somehow, some way, these people, they just get in our lane. For all you doc haters, I'm sure you'll dissect all of this and still find a way to publicly criticize me. Do what you need to do. I'll say this isn't for you. This was for my team today, my community, my friends, la familia that have supported me. And I'm not denying the exchange of whispers, champs. I'm not denying that to all of you out there. It looks bad. I have no way of knowing if the Twitch user thought our exchange of whispers was inappropriate. If it was, I apologize. All I know is that I never did what Twitch, Cody Connors, or the public is claiming that I did. That's it. I'm not saying anything more about any of this, right? Unless I need to, because trust me, I have more I haven't disclosed. I just want to get back to what we do best. Put on a show. And climb our way to the tippity top of the mountain, man. In our own lane.
Yo, shout out to Dr. Disrespect. Getting it off his chest, shooting from the hip. Yo, that whole situation sounds sketch. They did him dirty, it's obvious. They wanted to take out the two-time. It's crazy. The way it sounded in the media, you can see how it really affected his life. That man had employees he had to lay off. It affected many lives. But you can see, it took a toll on him. Because they opened up their mouth, he was able to get this off his chest. I believe it's what he needed. Shout out to Disrespect, man, for sure.
I'm going to stay on the line with you, okay?
Okay.
Amber 911, operator 7214. What is the location of your emergency? All right, you need police, fire, or ambulance?
I need an ambulance.
Tell me exactly what happened.
My boyfriend, he's been asleep on the couch since this morning. Well, he never came to bed last night. Sleep on the couch. I left him on the couch before I took my son to school this morning, put a blanket over him, and now I just checked on him again because he never got up. I don't feel a heartbeat. I don't see him breathing.
And you said, hold on, you said on the couch, and what happened?
I said I put a cover over him because it gets a little cool, and he's in the living room. And now I just checked on him because I see he never got up. And I don't see him breathing. I don't feel a heartbeat or anything. And I turned him over. I see he kind of foamed at the mouth.
I'm sorry. Are you saying he's not breathing? Is that correct? I'm not hearing you.
Yes, yes.
Okay, ma'am. If there's
yes.
a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Is there a what?
If there's a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, I'm sending the paramedics to help you now. Stay on the line and I'll tell you exactly what to do next.
Okay.
I need to know about how old he is.
He's 34.
Okay, are you right by him now?
Yes.
Okay, please put your phone on speaker so your hands are free to help.
Can I add his dad to the call? He's trying to call me back because I called him first before I called you.
Okay, so we need to help your boyfriend now. Okay, listen carefully. Lay him flat on his back on the floor and remove anything under his head.
He is not waking up. Quick.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, you gotta get him to the floor. Lay him flat on his back on the floor and remove anything under his head.
Flat on his back on the floor?
Yes, ma'am.
Help me.
Where's Drake?
He's not here.
Yeah, were you able to get him to the floor?
Yes, he's not. His heart not beating or anything.
Damn, that's heartbreaking. Rest in peace, rich homie Quan. Our condolences to his family. I don't know, there's a whole bunch of red flags with this one. I just wish there was more sense of urgency.
One place we have not mentioned so far is the remote Llanos de Mojos region in Bolivia, which stands in the southwest corner of the Amazon basin between Acre and Mato Grosso. Like its neighbors to either side, on-the-ground archaeological research in the area had revealed unusual sights, including mounds rising up to 70 feet above the landscape and hundreds of miles of causeways and canals. Yet the area was so remote, so thick with jungle, that these peculiarities had never really been followed up on in the same way as they had in other regions. And as incredible discoveries emerged elsewhere, Llanos de Mojos was mostly ignored. It was not until 2022 that the shocking secrets of the region were finally revealed. That year, a group of archaeologists from Germany, the UK, and Bolivia, led by a man named Michael Plumers, published a study in Nature Journal, which sent the scientific world into a frenzy. Using LiDAR, Plumers and his team had discovered 26 unique settlement sites in the region, including, most spectacularly, 2 large urban centers, known as Landivar and Cotoca. These 2 urban centers were each arranged around a monumental core, which contained huge raised platforms of earth, topped by enormous conical pyramids, and each surrounded by 3 rings of defenses and rampart fortifications. Simply, these centers were much bigger and much more impressively developed than anything previously found in Acre or Mato Grosso. But there was more than that. In the area surrounding Landival and Kotoka was an extensive network of smaller settlements which spanned 200 square miles, all connected by roads and causeways. Stretching throughout the network were endless canals and reservoirs, evidence of an advanced hydrological system that could have been used to control water supply across the area. Unlike previous findings in Acre or Mato Grosso, where smaller settlements were roughly grouped together, this was an entire urban area centered around a system of large city centers and suburbs. As researchers described in the study, the settlement pattern represents a type of tropical low-density urbanism that has not previously been described in Amazonia. Put another way by Heiko Prumers, nobody expected that kind of society in that region. Pyramids 20 meters high. The whole region has been so densely habitated during the pre-Hispanic time. That's incredible to believe. There is a new civilization, new culture, waiting for us to study them. This massive discovery implied something which nobody had been expecting, as Prumers explained. We can now see that general estimates for the population of Amazonia have been too low, much too low. But everything about these sites, the scale of the large settlements, the reservoirs, the defenses, the sophisticated infrastructure, points to large populations. But just how large could these populations have been? Numerous researchers have begun to add up the numbers and use different models to estimate how many people could have lived in this previously lost Amazonian civilization. The most commonly cited estimate today suggests that at its peak, the Amazon could have been home to between 6 to 9 million people, while others say that it was surely over 10 million, and some even believe it could have been as much as 20 million. For comparison, the population of Spain, where Francisco de Orellana first traveled down the Amazon River, was 6.5 million. Either way, these estimates have blown the roof off anything anyone had believed possible in the region. In only a few years, the population estimates went from thousands to tens of thousands to 1 million to millions. Does it not seem likely that the number will grow further in the future? Prumers, for one, believes it could rise. In his words, "I'm sure that in the next 10 or 20 years we'll see a lot of these cities, and some even bigger than the ones we are presenting in our paper." Take a step back. We now know that the long-standing view of mainstream science is wrong, officially and definitively disproven. There was, in fact, a massive civilization existing in the Amazon, just as Francisco de Orellana originally recorded. With this conclusively established, the question becomes, what happened to them? If the accounts of Orellana in the 1500s were true, why did future explorers not find anything, neither a huge civilization nor even the remains of one? The prevailing answer is a tragic one. When the Europeans first arrived in South America, they brought with them diseases like smallpox and influenza, which decimated the indigenous populations who had no resistance to them. Estimates suggest that 90% of the population of South America, and perhaps as much as 99%, was wiped out by disease between the 16th and 18th centuries. Understanding this, the explanation for why no great civilization was found becomes quite simple. The population of this civilization, which once reached into the millions, was wiped out over the course of only a few generations. As people disappeared, the jungle began to take over where they had lived, covering their cities. Because they had built with mud brick and wood instead of stone, the evidence of their existence quickly deteriorated, lost beneath the jungle soil. By the time Europeans began to explore the area more thoroughly, a century and a half after the initial journey of Orellana, there was nothing left to find, leaving them to conclude that the civilization had never existed. There is one other question which arises from the definitive proof that large populations existed in the Amazon before the arrival of Europeans. Remember, modern science has shown that poor Amazonian soil cannot support large-scale agriculture. So how did this Amazonian civilization feed a population of millions? The secret is something called terra preta, a near-mystical discovery which not only explains Amazonian civilization, but which may change our world in modern times. As early as the 19th century, scientists and explorers began to officially document the existence of a strange dark earth in the Amazon. Called terra preta, literally black earth in Portuguese, it stood in stark contrast to the normal orange-yellow soil of the Amazon.
And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed tonight's rabbit hole. If you haven't already, please take a second
just to smash that like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.
Just to make sure the algorithm knows what's up. So what we gonna do, y'all? That's right. Run these numbers up. Thanks again. Until next time.